We're going back to the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Many of us know about the kinds of advances in offshore drilling that made the Deepwater Horizon rig possible before it exploded and sank. But disaster management didn't keep pace, and that's why nobody really knows how to contain a spill like this any better than they did 20 years ago. It's time to start asking what that means for our energy supply. And here to help answer those questions is the ultimate oil insider, you might call him. Frank Verrastro has spent 30 years on every side of the industry, at the White House, at the Interior and Energy Departments, and in the private sector at Tosco and Pennzoil. Frank is currently director of the Energy and National Security Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's with us on the phone from Washington, D.C. Frank, I want to explore the implications of this disaster in just a couple of seconds, but beforehand, I want you to talk to us about dispersants. We've heard a whole lot about these detergent-like substances that are being injected directly into the crude floor on the floor of the Gulf of Mexico. But is this really a panacea? Because people might be led to believe that it is.
Well, good morning, Erik. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. If the technology has advanced for drilling, it really hasn't in terms of cleanup, in part because we never expected this kind of a size of a disaster. We had things like blowout preventers that were supposed to take care of this eventuality. So technologically speaking, when we look at containment, we're still looking at putting in floating buoys in the water, float devices to protect the shore, to have controlled burns where you can burn the oil off the surface, to add chemical dispersants, which are really just surfactants. They're like detergents if you wash your hands to try to get the oil off. And all that really does is break the oil down into smaller droplets that can be absorbed by microbes, but still stays in the system, in the ecosystem for a while. So you're right, it's not a panacea. It's just what people, it's kind of a series of trade-offs. They're ugly trade-offs, but you have to make them and decide which is more important at any given time.
Ugly is one word to describe it. Frank, how did we get to this point, a level of arrogance, you might say, if not just confidence alone, in the mechanisms in place? And how quickly is that likely to change? What are the oil companies that are operating rigs offshore going to have to do now as a result of this disaster?
Well, I mean, I'd be careful with the word arrogance. What we've been able to do, technologically speaking, is things that we couldn't do 15 years ago. So the industry on the drilling side can do 3D seismic. We can drill through the salt. We can drill 4, 5, 6 miles below the seabed. We're talking about subsea completions, on the seabed. This is technologically proficient. We're in the ultra-deep water now, and it has taken new equipment to get there. Things like blowout preventers on the rigs were actually designed with system redundancy, so if oil and gas came up the column and the pressure changed, you could seal the well off. And in this case, it seemed like there were several things that could have contributed, but none actually stopped the explosion.
So Frank, let's say you're another operator or even somebody leasing a well from BP in the Gulf. What are you doing now because of this disaster? What do you have to do in the immediate aftermath? And how much is it going to cost? And is there any risk that it poses to oil production?
Well, my suspicion is that we're going to see certainly greater scrutiny, regulatory scrutiny, once we determine what the cause of the blowout was. But there's already calls for additional system redundancy, put more than one blowout preventer, and most rigs have them. There's, in the blowout preventers, there's shear rams, they call them, and some have one set, some have two sets, and they're designed to actually seal the pipe and then cut it to stop the flow. There'll probably be new regulations looking at cementing of the casings, for example, and putting the well cap in place. And then, obviously, more technology and more capability on containment.
Frank, very quickly before we go, there's been a lot of criticism leveled at BP and some criticism leveled at the government. In your opinion, are they doing what they should be doing right now?
So I think at the beginning, you never know at the initiation or at the start of these incidents of full information, so you proceed along based on what you know. I think the expectation at the beginning, the thought was that the oil that was leaking was coming from the collapsed pipe. When the drilling rig sunk, it collapsed on the drill pipe, and that's where the leak was coming from. It wasn't until at least a day later when the expectation was, well, actually the well bore was never closed.
I'm afraid we got to end it there. That's Frank Verrastro, everybody, on the oil spill.